This is Britain's Protection on Bridgewater Street in Manchester. During the early 1800s, when it was built, it was used as an army recruitment centre, and it has paintings and images on the inside to depict this. And people often confuse these images as being associated with the Peterloo massacre, which took place nearby. Now, it's not only a wonderful pub, but it's also famous for its whiskey selection. It has a huge whiskey selection which people travel far and wide to enjoy. It's recently seen issues as to whether it can actually stay here, but the landlord and other people have gone to great lengths to keep it safe. Only recently I was watching a video on this pub which actually starred a fantastic artist that I've loved for years, for most of my life, a singer called Badly Drawn Boy. And he was performing here years ago, and he was speaking in a very touching manner. You know, he seems very down to earth, and he was actually saying about how times have changed so rapidly, and this was back then. And he was saying he actually feels sorry for himself, never mind, say, his nan. So he, like the pub, like the people that love the pub, are a representation of an old school pub culture which we very much would like to keep alive, and I think it's a beautiful addition to Manchester's pub scene. Upon entering the pub and having a short conversation with the landlord, he agreed to tell the story on my behalf, as he tells it so well. He's incredibly sincere. He's a very nice man, very knowledgeable man. I cannot suggest enough that people from Manchester, especially whiskey lovers, get down to the pub and talk to him, and we thank him deeply for his accounts. And I certainly felt that it would be far more sincere coming from someone not only from Manchester, but loves this pub in particular. Right, okay. Seeing as it's a whiskey establishment, can you advise a good Scotch for me?
Sure.
I know that that's going to be a big ask because there's so many.
No? What kind of thing do you usually drink?
I usually am a Lafrague man.
Okay, so you like your smoky kind of peat rolls?
Yeah.
Okay. This one's Gilhoven. It's one of the new distilleries from Ireland. It was cask strength, 50% ABV, but it's got kind of light, soft, and then smoky.
Beautiful.
It's got a nice all-round flavour to it.
Stunning. Oh, proper Glencairn glass as well.
Aye, courtesy of the Malt Whisky Society.
Do you know, I can't find them anywhere.
These?
Even in London, they don't have Glencairn glasses anywhere.
Do you know what? It's the cost of them, mate. They're usually anywhere now between kind of £2 and £4 a glass. So if you think you can amount to get broke every day, whereas tumblers are a lot more hard wearing, so most places opt for that.
And thieves.
Well, yeah, and they drop in people's pockets a lot as well.
Now, if you don't mind, I'll just pay once we're
Sure, no problem.
But you was telling me a moment ago that this pub ran into some issues.
We did. So basically, 2018, there was a process came out called the MRO, which basically meant that pubs could move away from their tied brewery. To do that effectively, you had to have the place surveyed. It cost quite a bit of money, but the old process was effectively a case of, as a pub, you could come away from your brewery because most breweries were charging quite extortionate prices on their products. So whereas you were usually tied to a brewery and you had to buy all your products via them, a standard cask of beer at, say, £70 direct from a brewery, you had to buy through yours, and it would be £100. So you're talking kind of 30% on top of the markup, which obviously, given the fact that we know the bigger breweries don't pay anywhere near that for the product, it can get a little bit grating.
Yeah.
So effectively brought out the MRO stating that you could move away from your brewery, however, they would increase your rent so they weren't losing out, but then over a course of time, you should find yourself as a business on the right side of things, because you could then go and buy your beer from anybody that you choose. We were with Punch Taverns, and we opted to go MRO, and we were one of the first to do so in Manchester. And what should have been a fairly straightforward procedure became quite long-winded, and that's unfortunately is the way, because a lot of these big pub companies have found ways to circumnavigate the legislation.
So do you think there were pubs that are less successful than yours that didn't last as a result?
Yeah. So, for example, I mean, it's been through Parliament, it's been through the House of Commons and things like that. There's been discussions where these MRO processes should have taken, say, 6 months start to finish. Most of them were taking 2 years, and the problem being is a lot of the pubs couldn't afford the fees and the amount of money to keep putting out it to go MRO. I'm quite fortunate that my business partners backed this place and they love this place. They bought this place originally in 2012, 2013, purely to stop it falling into the hands of a big company. They're very much custodians of Manchester pubs. My business partner owns another one.
Do you think you would have survived without them?
No, not at all.
Right.
Not at all. If this was strictly me as a business, just running it and living it day to day, it would have closed years ago. It really would. These guys, like I say, they buy them to make sure that they don't end up disappearing in time.
Do you feel that there's people doing the polar opposite deliberately?
Yeah, and the problem is nowadays is that people are buying them. They don't care about the actual pubs, like your big pub companies. For a big pub company, their focus is not the pub, which is a shame. Their focus is the land. Their focus is, what can this do if we flip it in a year's time? And unfortunately, I think that's what happened with the punch buyout, because when we went MRO, usually your brewery would sit down with you and be like, look, well, hang on, we don't want to lose all your beer, and we don't want to lose your business. Let's negotiate and see what we can do. Punch taverns didn't even want to open that door. We brought it up, and it was kind of like, all right, you want to go around? Fine. But usually they wouldn't do that. It turned out subsequently that we did go MRO, and we tied into Heineken directly. So we basically struck a deal with Heineken to say, right, we'll buy our keg beers from you at whatever price. They offered us money, here's 40 grand to do. We didn't need that. We just said we want the best price on a keg to make it better for the customer and to make it better for us. The only stipulation we had was that at the time we served 2 cask ales, and we wanted to start using local beers. So our only stipulation was, right, okay, Heineken, if we do this deal, we want to put 8 cask lines in brand new, and we want to use all local beers. Heineken still do cask beers, but they buy theirs nationally.
Yeah.
Whereas, as you may know, beer drinkers, firstly, they won't really come to an area, it's what's local. There's that many local breweries pop up in Manchester every 6 months there's a new brewery coming up, and they're all small, local, independent businesses. If they're not selling to the place where they're making it, they've got to travel it hundreds of miles away. There's actually
where people take less interest.
Exactly. Well, this is so when it went to the government, there was a gentleman I think brought it up from Saltaire Brewery, and he said because most of the pubs in that area were tied pubs, he had to drive 40 miles out of his own area to sell his own beer, and that's ridiculous. You shouldn't have to do that just to make a business. If you go to Saltaire, the first thing you want to do is drink Saltaire beer. You come to Manchester, you want to drink a Manchester beer. You don't want to come to Manchester and drink a beer that's brewed in London. Yeah, you might have the odd swap, which, again, you need to have because otherwise beers won't get around the country. Fully understand that. But majority of people, they come for a local drink. That's what they want. And unfortunately, Heineken just didn't have the portfolio for that, and they still don't. So we kind of put a stipulation in saying, right, well, if we do the deal, our big thing is we want to change our cask and work locally. So we did that. The problem then being is that when Punch Sevens, well, unknown to us, Punch Sevens sold up, but they sold up to Heineken via a third company called Star Pubs and Bars. So then they became our beer provider, beer at a better rate, and also our landlord. But your rent effectively near doubles when you go out. So it's not all, cherries and rainbows.
No, it's not.
You've still got to balance it out. And we did that for...
It shouldn't be this hard.
Years. It should not. Anyone making a living shouldn't have to... you've got to work hard, but you shouldn't have to work hard.
That's right.
Just to be able to make.
You're jumping hoops just to make that living.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's always an uphill struggle.
Exactly.
Do you feel that there's a huge chance this corner could have just become another apartment block?
Yeah. Oh, there was talks of that years ago. Yeah. Originally, years ago, there was talks of actually moving the pub further to down where the Deansgate, the Hilton Hotel is. But again, if you'd have moved it, I as a drinker would have came to this spot and gone, well, that's another pub gone. Yeah. I wouldn't have gone looking for it further down the street. And it's the same thing again. If you start closing these places down, the heritage of Manchester just disappears. Especially where we are. On this particular strip, there's 4 pubs. If you take one away, then there's less opportunity and less reason for people to drink it. You take a second one away.
And when you put a new bar in, it's hollow. It's glass and metal. It means so little.
Well, it's not even that. You start. I always say to people, as much as we're in the city centre, we're also very much a destination venue because you're not coming to this side of town unless you're coming to this side of town. You're not just passing. Yes, we get a bit of trade from the hotel next door, and we get people going to the Bridgewater, but a lot of it is people going, oh, British protection, yeah, I've been there years. My dad used to go there. My granddad did his stag do that. They come to here for the reason. You know, they've got the biggest whiskey collection in the Northwest. Cool. That's why they come here. So if you start taking these venues away, it's not just us that suffer, the entire area suffers because there's less people then coming around this area. So then we go 2 years, the year's time, 2 years time, another one will go. 5 years, there'll be nothing here. So then you've just cut off a section of the city again.
How do you feel about the pubs where the breweries sort of put staff in, and you know the ones I mean, they'll always have these sort of banners on, and it's very impersonal. Yeah. There's no landlord to address. Say I came in here, I can speak to you, but there's usually a bunch of young girls or young lads, and they just are so unconnected with the property, and it's too formal, and there's a lot of that in the city. So. Yeah. So you'll get people that will come in, they come to see England, they come to see London, they come to see Manchester. I had it in Liverpool when I was in one of the pubs, and I walked in, and what I want is a landlord, a manager, someone with some sort of pub culture behind them. And if instead you're met with this sort of bland, what can I get you?
Yeah. But unfortunately, it all becomes just one massive Wetherspoon-style effect of pubs, which... Let's be honest, Wetherspoons, people drinking there because of the pricing. No one goes to Wetherspoons because the food's great quality or the drink's great quality. They go because of the price point, which is absolutely fine.
On that, Wetherspoons, stop putting your breakfast in microwaves, please. Yeah.
But listen, we've all been there. I've drank at Wetherspoons for years. Yeah. But no one goes to Wetherspoons because of the quality of something. They go because it's a cheap, cheerful place to go. That's why they go. When you come somewhere like this, it's because of the heritage. It's because of the fact that we've got people like myself and my staff who are not just here because they're earning money, they're here because they want this place to work. You know, I've been running this place for over 10 years. When I came on board, I actually came because of the whiskies. My business partners bought this place, and for about 2 years, they were coming in and out of my old job, talking about buying a pub. And when I found out where it was, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah.
And then obviously it happened, but I've been here ever since, and it's because I've got a love of whiskey. I've got an assistant manager who has got a love of ales.
Specialist Jack Daniels.
Well, it's the same thing again. We've been doing that since 2014, and when I say we've been doing that, so in the late 90s, Jack Daniels brought a program out called the Single Barrel Program, basically meaning you could buy a barrel of whiskey and you could call it whatever you wanted. Now, the way they started doing that was they would ship you 3 small sample bottles. What they call, so they had 3 profiles. Say, for example, they had sweet, oaky, and woody as their profiles. They'd send you 3. You'd try all of them and go, well, actually, the sweet one's what we like. Great. They would then, whatever barrel that was, you purchase it, they tank it, bottle it, send it to you. We could have done that. Sent through the post, done. No, what did we do? We got on a flight. We went to the distillery in Tennessee.
Oh, did you?
And we hand select ours with their master distiller. And we did that for 6 years. The only reason we haven't done that now is because we're in this arbitrary kind of issue with star pubs and bars that if we go over and select it, because it takes about 9 to 11 months as a full process each time. If we went over now and did it, but then say we lost the pub, it's me selling out the back of my boot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So we've had to stop that as a process. I get calls every week of people going, when's the next barrel coming out? You know, this JD collectors in the UK are absolutely huge.
No, I've never seen something. I'm going to have to. Could you pick this camera up for me and just? I'm going to bring you over here. Just before we finish. Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm not the biggest JD fan, but that's because I don't know it.
You are kind of Jack Daniels is closest to Scotch. So this is what we call our Manchester Cask No. 5. It's our all-rounder. So it's kind of slightly oaky, slightly spicy, with a slightly sweet aftertaste. Have a try of that. And the thing is, I actually tend to slip this one into Scotch whisky tastings a lot of the time.
To see.
You'll get whiskey drinkers who go, oh, don't drink Jack Daniels, that American rubbish. You slide this one in, and then you go, where's that? And you'll say to them, where in Scotland is that from? And they'll pick the brain. And then when you turn and go, actually, it's a Jack Daniels, they go, what?
Yeah.
But then your JD drinkers will know because it has that base JD taste, but it's still, each barrel is unique.
That's a lot better than anything I've drunk. My friend Luke Uncaged, he makes similar sort of videos. He does love specialist Jack Daniels, and he's had me on it once before, and that's sort of bringing it back for me. But that is the nicest Jack Daniels I've ever drunk. And if you just look at that, that's not an average Jack Daniels bar, is it? I mean, I go all over the city, and as I said, I've been into whiskey pubs, or and they claim to be whiskey, and I've been in some that are really impressive. That the bar's stacked, but most don't even have that.
But, yeah, I mean, don't get wrong. I won't lie. We are missing a few, but the thing is, again, so for example, in the last 2 years in the US, I think they've released 12 or 13 new bottles, but again, you can only get them in the US. So,
I didn't even
go back over. We can't pick them up, or you can buy them over here, but on a secondary market, and you're paying hundreds for them. Problem being there is, if for example I was to buy, say, a Coy Hill bottle at £400, if I stick that on the back bar, I've got to charge God knows what for it, which isn't really fair then to the customer. The collector's point of view, yes, they'll pay for that and they'll put it in the collection.
Yes, yeah.
Fully understand that. Yeah. But if I'm going to buy it to resell it, I'm either going to resell it at a loss, which doesn't make any business sense, or I'm going to have to put it out at a price.
A novelty, almost. It almost becomes a novelty.
Yeah. But like I say, we could have just gone, right, send us a sample bottle in, we'll try it, we'll buy it. Instead, we went, you know what, let's go over. And we did that for 6 years straight. Each year, go for 3 or 4 days, drive to the distillery, we sit down with the master distiller, we get them involved, we hand select the barrel, we then do a launch night here, at which we launched each cask. We invite people who previously bought it down to come to it, we invite new people down, we do a raffle on the night at which we raise money for charity, which goes to Christie. We do that each year. And again, all that kind of thing now has to stop because we're in this kind of limbo position where we don't know where we're going to be in a year's time. And it's a real frustration because, even things like newer breweries who want to work with us, we can't do that yet because we have to wait and see where we're going to be.
You're in limbo, aren't you?
Yeah, so it just kind of puts a big stop on us. For Heineken, or for Staples bars, they don't have to stop. They don't have to worry about anything. They just keep throwing money at it in the hopes that we'll eventually go away, which we're not doing. I'm quite, like I say, fortunate that my business partners have gone, we'll take this as far as we can. It's cost us nearly 100,000 so far just in solicitors' fees. We're not even at the court stage yet.
Right, let's be honest here. Let's be really truthful. What do you think the future of Britain's pubs is without people like yourself? Because let's have it right. How many of you are there in Manchester to save it?
I think Manchester's quite lucky because there are most of the independent pubs in Manchester have got somebody like me or of similar mind to me behind the bar. They've got a Circus Tavern on Portland Street. Barry, who owns that, big guy, really full of life. Mm-hmm. He lives and breathes that pub. People go to that pub because it's his pub. City Arms over on Kennedy Street, the staff who work there, it's a cask-led pub. Every single member of staff behind that bar could talk your ear off about cask all day long. Mm-hmm. You've got the Grey Horse, you've got the Vine, all those kind of pubs. City Road behind us, Kay, she's had that pub for years, and again, she's behind the bar, she's working with guys, she's making that pub run. If you take that kind of side away and just put them all into these categories of big pub codes where they put anyone down that doesn't really care, yeah, they might still be here, but people are going to drink in them. Your customer base is going to whittle down, and then eventually they'll just close it down, put someone else in 6 months later, that doesn't work, sell the land off, demolish it. So the pub company doesn't lose out either way, because if the pub itself doesn't work as a business, they've got the backup of selling the land off. So they're never really going to worry. Whereas if I lose this pub, well, I ain't got a job, I ain't got a business, I haven't got a livelihood anymore.
And what we lose is more costly than even anything that in your lifetime, what we lose is far more expensive than money.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, you could build 1 million apartments in Manchester, but you keep putting up apartments and all the heritage places to drink go. What's the point?
Exactly.
For nowhere to go.
What football team, what country are you supporting? What happens to the place?
Yeah. It's like you can stick a big apartment here, that's great. But then if there's nowhere for people to enjoy it, what's the point in having a big apartment here of people living here if there's nowhere for them to actually spend their time?
And if it just looks like it could be in France or anywhere else because it's becoming generic.
Exactly. You take all the uniqueness of what Manchester's about, there's no reason for people to visit Manchester anymore. If you just become another big glass tower city, like you say, you could just go China, Toronto, wherever. You're not going to go, we should go to Manchester. There's no heritage anymore.
The whole red brick feel,
exactly.
You would be very underwhelmed. So you went to London. There's loads of pubs that you'd walk in and think this is fantastic, but you'd be underwhelmed when, say, the Counting House or a few others I can think of, you'd walk in and think, I want to talk to the landlord. It's like I said, bloke with a thing around his neck, hasn't got a clue, and he's just at work. And you would be disappointed because you walk in one or two and you think, it will say 15 such and such or 16 such, and you think, oh, Jesus, and it's been serving this long. You look at the hatches and everything, and you just want to know a bit of information. And
it's almost like you're upsetting their day by wanting to talk to them.
they're too busy. They're too busy.
They're being told, serve, keep yourself busy, get this clean up. And I say to my staff all the time, keep yourself busy. But if one of my staff is talking to somebody about something to do with this pub, I'm never going to give them a have a go for it. I always say to work while you're talking, but if they go, hang on a second, this guy wants to know about this, absolutely fine. They'll come up to me and say, oh, sorry about that, I was just explaining this. Not a problem. If you're telling somebody about this pub and giving them a reason to come back to it, no issue at all. Big pub companies, their motto is money, money, money.
Like a McDonald's.
Get this done. Yeah. So if you say to them, oh, can I ask about that? They're not interested in speaking to you about that because in their head, I don't want to get a bobbins off my
Wait there, let me get my manager.
Yeah, I don't want to get in trouble. I can't talk about that, mate. And they just off you pop. Next person, please. It just takes all the personal effect of a pub out of it, which is the whole reason you come to a pub.
Well, you have been an absolute legend. Okay, you've been an absolute legend, and I honestly thank you so much.
Right.
I think my cameraman's getting tired from holding it there, but we'll exchange details, and you have honestly done us an honour today. It's a shame we didn't keep recording. After our conversation, the landlord showed us on his phone a few pictures of the developer's plans, which would have seen the pub hidden, shrouded, if you like, by 2 towers either side of it. This would have not only made the pub look incredibly ugly, but destroyed its authenticity and the very nature of what makes it such a special Manchester pub. I personally, like the landlord, am disgusted by these plans, and I hope you will be too.